You guys read the title to this video. You already know what we're gonna do. This is quite literally how I know that another calendar year has gone by, is me watching all these videos. I can't believe that it's gonna be 2025. That's so crazy. This year, I definitely read a significantly less number of books. Like I think last year I read over 100. This year, I think I read like 60 something, maybe 70 books. So there weren't that many books that like truly stood out in my mind, and then I could only compile a list of 10 books. So those are the books that I'm gonna be talking about today. Also, disclaimer, I just wanna say, I'm not a book critic. Like I'm not an English lit major. Most of my book preferences are purely based off of vibes, and there's like no other way I can explain it. Let's get into the books. I tried to do it in some kind of order, but like I don't have that strong of a preference for order. And you guys know that my book ratings suffer from book inflation. I talked about that. So the first book I'm gonna talk about, I don't think I would go around just like recommending this book willy-nilly to anyone. I know that people have really polarizing opinions about it. So with that being said, the first book I'm gonna talk about is none other than A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. The first thing I will say is that this man looks like Jim Carrey to me, and no one can change my mind. Literally argue with the wall. Is that not Jim Carrey? It's about 4 college classmates. You follow each of their like POVs and stuff, and you just follow them like throughout college and then like way into their adulthood, like pretty much their entire life. The friendship between them, and it's especially about one of the boys named Jude, and he has like a terrible past that you can learn about as the book goes on. It's like kind of a mystery of like trying to piece together what happened. A man scarred by unspeakable childhood trauma. Unspeakable childhood trauma, let me tell you that. It's pretty much a character study. Like that's how I view this book. The first half of this book is kind of like ominous and you're like, what's happening? And then the last part of this book, like this much, I'm gonna throw up. The reason that I can't not put this on the list is because I think about the quotes from this book like every single day. Like, by the way, I read and annotated this entire book. I marked every single time I cried. Look at that. It just says, I'm crying. Oh, if you know, then you know. And so I try to be kind to everything I see, and in everything I see him. That quote, obviously, because I like know the characters and the context of the entire story, it changed the way that I treat people. Like, truly, books have the power to change people, make you into a better person. The only trick of friendship, I think, is to find people who are better than you are. Not smarter, not cooler, but kinder and more generous and more forgiving. And then to appreciate them for what they can teach you, and to try to listen to them when they tell you something about yourself, no matter how bad or good it might be, and to trust them, which is the hardest thing of all, but the best as well. That exact quote about friendship also altered my brain chemistry permanently. However, I will say there's a long list of trigger warnings before you read this book, and if any of those would impact you, you are not the target audience for this book, and that's why I say I will not go around just recommending this willy-nilly. But for something that impacted me that much, kind of deserves a spot in my top 10. The next best book that I read this year was Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. This is a memoir, which if you guys don't know, memoirs are low-key some of my favorite books to read. And if you guys don't know, now you know. One thing about me is that I'm actually in love with Trevor Noah. That is a man that I would marry. Cuff that man, like I would want him to be my husband and the father of my children. He's so funny and he's so smart. He's South African, and he was born and lived in South Africa during apartheid. If you don't know what apartheid is, Google is your friend. Black and white people in South Africa were not allowed to like have any relation. They certainly were not allowed to have kids. And so Trevor Noah was quite literally born a crime, and it just talks about his childhood. He just has such an interesting perspective. But there are so many quotes in this book. Relationships are built in the silences. You spend time with people, you observe them and interact with them, and you come to know them. And that is what apartheid stole from us. Time. You know what I mean? Like there's so many life lessons like that, and this book was all about his childhood. I thought that it was also going to talk about like his rise to fame and like becoming literally a celebrity. No, this book had none of that in it. He is just like so insightful and smart and worldly, and I just love that, and I will always be a fan of Trevor Noah. Oh my god, I'm just realizing I'm looking at the list of books that I have, and they're literally all out of pocket. You know how every single person and their mother loves to talk about how their music taste is everything? Everyone says that, and everyone thinks that that's so unique. I feel like that's how I feel about books. But the next book that I read was The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. This book I feel like is purely on this list for like sentimental good memory reasons and like hyperfixation reasons. Like I hope this reaches the right target demographic. I mean, if you're on my channel and you're watching me, chances are that it is, because you're exactly like me. But the reason why this book is so special to me is because I read this book in one sitting on my birthday, on my 23rd birthday this year. By the way, that was like one of my favorite birthdays that I've ever spent this year. Most part, I like to spend my day as like a day of just like solitude and reflection and just doing like the favorite things that I like to do on my own. And of course, one of those things is going to the bookstore and just like reading freely with no burdens on my mind. And this is the book that I chose for that day. Okay, wait, first of all, let me talk about what this book is about. I didn't even talk about that yet. I feel like everyone's read this book as like required reading in school. I just like never did. We follow our main character. He's the youngest of 3 boys, and his name's Pony Boy. It's giving Outer Banks, Pogues and Kook. The Greasers are kind of like a street gang, not super well off, all wear leather jackets, like they kind of run the streets. And then there's the Socias, who are like the well off, like affluent kids. Those two groups like hate each other. He's the youngest of the Greasers, and like you meet all the other boys too, and they're all really distinct. And it's pretty much just a coming of age story about Pony Boy having to almost like leave the innocence of his childhood and kind of become an adult. The hyperfixation reason why I love this book is because the Broadway adaptation of this book, I have not seen it, nor will I probably ever see it, but Brody Grant, I saw him singing the song Great Expectations. I think it was on Jimmy Fallon, and I was like what is this heavenly voice that I hear? And then it made me like hyperfixate on that song. Wait a second, I just pulled up. I was gonna go search for the song. I opened it up. It's literally the song that was last playing on my phone. Sorry, that's the lore, my lore about this book. But if you don't know the lore, like the S.E. Hinton lore, oh my gosh, Google it. It's like insane. The next book that I want to talk about, The Prison Healer. I actually forget who the author is, but it's here. Oh my gosh, I feel like I haven't like thoroughly enjoyed like a YA fantasy book in a minute, which is so sad because I truly had like the greatest time of my life ever reading those books in like middle school, truly chasing that high forever. And I feel like these days, like I truly haven't found books that give me that same feeling. This is the first book in a long time that I read that had that addictive quality right away. It's about a girl. She's pretty much lived her whole life in this prison and she's been trained to become like the prison doctor. Like, one day this boy comes in, like a new prisoner comes in, and she has to like take care of him. Like she takes care of all the new prisoners who come in. Oh my gosh, I don't even like golden retriever boys like that. Like he is actually golden retriever. Blonde, friendly, talkative, like makes fun, like flirts for fun. That kind of character. If you guys are words of affirmation girlies, you would love this book. If you guys want like grumpy sunshine, but like reverse grumpy sunshine, where she's kind of grumpy and he's sunshine, oh, read this book. I like the girl and I like the boy. Like that's so rare for me. I feel like she had her eye on the prize. Like she had her own personal mission, a woman on a mission. She's not good with weapons or anything like that. That I feel like normally people feel like you need to be like that to be like a strong female character in a book like this. She was just like really smart, diligent, and hardworking and like resilient. That's what I loved so much about her character. Also, this was the first book I think in our book club book. This might have been the book for January. Also, sorry, someone asked me what even happened to my book club on Fable. I think it's linked in the description all the time. I'm so sorry, I kind of fell off the wagon with that because I got so busy with school and it was kind of hard to read books. But I think we're gonna get started again. New year, new me. Feel free to join the book club. It's on Fable. It's called Sunny Kim's Book Club. We just like pick a book to read every single month. If you guys have any book suggestions, please comment them down below. Sometimes I can't think of like the options to choose for. Okay, the next book is Bear Town by Frederick Bachman. This book is about a town called Bear Town, and it's this small middle of nowhere town. The main thing that this town has going for it is hockey. Everyone eats, breathes, lives hockey. And you follow a lot of different characters in this town. Like you follow the coach, you follow like the star player. Each of them are so well developed and they have their own like distinct storylines, backstory, motivation. I think the first half of this book, it might feel slow moving, but that's the stuff that I like about books, is when like kind of nothing is happening and you just like are really getting to know the characters, like their entire backstory. It's like one of those Walking Dead episodes where like nothing happens, but you just learn about one character's specific backstory, and that's the entire episode. And those are always my favorite episodes. Around halfway through the book, that is when the big something happened. Big trigger warning for sexual assault. And that's where you see all the tension that was like being built up in the first half of the book between like all the characters and everyone's different points of views. Truly, characters are everything. Like again, this is one of those books where like quotes from this book, I think about these quotes every single day and I apply them to my everyday life. And there's this one storyline in this book about an immigrant boy and his like immigrant mother. Every time we got his POV, like I kind of wanted to cry. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I was tearing up during class. I'll be like, no one talk to me, I'm fragile. One day you'll have more money and influence than all those bastards, and then you'll do great things because you know how much it hurts to have no power, so you won't hurt them even though you could, and that will make the world a better place. When I tell you, I think about that quote and I say that in my head every single time, and I say that quote to people. Those are the words that I've been searching for literally my entire life, and this man just wrote into this book and I just read those words, and now it's changed the entire trajectory of my life. Pretty much. The next book is Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. I think what Frederick Bachman is to me with like contemporary literary fiction books, that is what Abby Jimenez is to me with romance books. Like she's definitely my favorite romance author, and it's definitely because she does such a good job of like putting in a romance, like a romance that's not cringy, that I actually like. But in the story, it's like not just the romance, there's like actual like emotional, like important, heavy things. It's about a woman named Emma. She's a traveling nurse and she is like frustrated because she is always the girl that everyone, right after they break up with her, they then go on to find like the love of their life, and she's like, I'm literally cursed. And she starts writing about this curse on like Reddit or something like that. And then someone else replies to her being like, oh my god, that's crazy. I have the exact same curse. And they're like, you know what we should do is that we should just date each other. Cancels out bed mass and we will then go on to find the love of our lives. And they're like, wait, that sounds good. You know what? It's just for the summer and it's gonna end after the summer because we're not gonna be endgame for each other. And so then she meets this man. There's like no set like trope with this book. It's kind of, they just like start seeing each other, start building a relationship with each other. But what I liked most about this book, first of all, Justin, green flags. Also, I love that both of the characters, they had like crazy lore, like character lore, and I loved how much they like helped each other. You know what I mean? Like I loved how much Emma was helping Justin. This girl, she has been through the ringer. Justin, this man, was low-key going through the ringer, and I like how much like she taught him about like empathy and like compassion, and like her helping him also helped her with like her past traumas and like forgiving people and like what does forgiveness really mean, resolving all these things, and they really helped each other become like better people. And I loved that. Like I loved reading about a relationship like that. If you are an acts of service girl, you would love Justin. You would eat it up, I think. What happens when water gets into a crack and it freezes? It expands, I said. Makes the crack bigger. Unhealed trauma is a crack, and all the little hard things that trickle into it that would have rolled off someone else settle. Then when life gets cold, that crack gets bigger, longer, deeper. It makes new breaks. That completely changed the way that I see trauma. Well, it didn't change it, but I feel like that just helped me make sense of it so much, and I literally think about that metaphor all the time. I've told so many people this. I think that's like the only romance book that actually made this list. Now for the top 3, or top 4, sorry. The top 4 books in this video. They're low-key like they're all on the same level playing field. So just imagine this is like not in any particular order. Actually, I'm gonna leave the 2 books that are like parts of series for last because I know that not everyone has read the series. So the first one is Edge of Collapse by Kylie Stone. Oh my god, I have talked about this series so much because it's low-key hard to get me to like commit to series, especially because this is like, I don't know, it's like something crazy. It's like 6-7 book series, I think, and I haven't read a long series like that in a long probably not since like I was a teenager. Actually, if this book was a drug, I think it would be legalized. Not this being the second time I've referenced The Walking Dead in this video, but if you love The Walking Dead, I think that you would like this book. But if you're just like me in general, where you just like kind of love the apocalypse, you would love this book. This is like post-apocalyptic. An EMP hits the US, takes out the entire American power grid, and so there's no electricity and it's wintertime. And you follow a woman named Hannah. She has been held captive by this man in like his locked basement for the past 5 years. When the EMP hits, the lock stops working, and that's the only time that she can escape. Isn't that crazy? She's pregnant. Is that not the craziest thing you've ever heard in your life? She is now running for her life with nothing, absolutely nothing. Clothes on her back, the baby in her belly. She's like low-key on the verge of death. She's saved by a man. His name's Liam. He's ex-military. He's a classic lone wolf where he was like gonna go to his farm in like the middle of nowhere and kind of fend for himself. But he has like this urge to like help her. If you read his prequel story, then you'll know why. He also has crazy character lore. He ends up like protecting her and helping her, and now it's like the 2 of them kind of traveling together. You follow another POV, the man who was holding her captive. I'm not even gonna lie to you, the psychopath's POV was probably my favorite chapters to read because it was like so insane to me. Oh, I was so scared. But I kind of love when authors do that, where like you can like see their thought processes and be like, how is that possible? What? Like that's so insane to me. Obviously, I'm in love with Liam, the ex-military. Ex-military, stoic, very protective, could kill a man with his bare hands and also start a fire with his bare hands. Yep, that's my type. It's giving Dear John. It's giving Frank Grillo from The Purge, Anarchy, Purge election year. Those 2 movies are like my comfort movies, by the way. It's literally just because of that man. He's like the finest man ever. This book is like the definition of like fast-paced, like action-packed, can't put down. So if you want a book like that to read, especially in the wintertime because it takes place in the winter, you should read this book. I love it so much, and I'm like rooting for them so hard. It's like my favorite kind of like slow burn like romance subplot where it's like kind of barely there and it's like really organic and it doesn't start out with like romance. I hate when books do that. This one just starts off with like truly companionship, friendship, dedication, devotion, like a bond that goes deeper than just like love and like attraction. I love that so much. And like seeing him resist his feelings, you know what I mean? Like wasn't even like pining and yearning like that. He's like kind of stoic, but that's like my favorite. Oh, my battery's gonna run out. Okay, we're back. So that was Edge of Collapse. The next best book that I read in 2024 was 5 Survive by Holly Jackson. Allegedly, this is like people's least favorite Holly Jackson book, and you are my enemy if that is you. I feel like this book was like a pressure cooker of a book. You basically follow a group of friends and it's like your siblings and like their friends and stuff, and they all go on this RV camping trip, and then their RV breaks down, or doesn't get breakdown, it gets shot in the middle of nowhere, like the woods, and then they get a note and it's like, surprise, sniper, one of you guys has a secret, you know who you are, and you need to tell your secret, otherwise no one's getting out alive. Every single person in the friend group in the RV is looking at each other like, who is it? And everyone obviously is like, it's not me, it's not me, it's not me, and they're like trying to escape. All of them have like secrets and you don't know that, and you're like unraveling the entirety of what this entire scheme is. There's like plot twists, betrayals, secrets, all this kind of stuff. Actually, what I liked about this book was like, I think there's a really cute like subplot of romance in this book, and he was like the boy that I liked the most anyway, just in general out of the group. And there's a boy in here who's giving like Rafe Cameron. If you like that vibe, it was like pure entertainment, adrenaline, a fun time, like keep you on the edge of your seat. You do not want to put the book down. Uncomplicated because it's like YA. It's like not that crazy or like disturbing. It's kind of just, it's like fun, you know what I mean? So if you're here for a good time, not a long time, this is the book for you. Now the last 2 books that I'm gonna talk about, definitely some of my favorite books that I read this year, except they're both later books in a series. I guess I can only talk about the series as a whole. One is from the Magnolia Parks Daisy Hates universe book series by Jessa Hastings. There's one reason why I love this book series and why this book was my favorite one of all time, and that reason is Julian Hates. The Man That You Are, You Will Always Be Famous. It's about like London socialites pretty much. Like it's like really messy, like love triangles and like unrequited love and angst and all this kind of stuff. Actually, in the first book, my favorite character was Christian, anyone could predict that. Like if you know me, like you know that I would like Christian. Until I met Mr. Julian Haynes. His whole thing is that he can never be attached to anyone. No relationships, no girlfriends, and everyone knows that. Even though he could truly have anyone that he wanted, because that man is fine as hell. He kind of just like has a string of like one night stands and like that kind of stuff. Like, Julian, you are the main character. You are the movement. You changed my life. I just want the best for him so bad. Like I want his romance. I want him to have his happily ever after. And the fact that like if you read this book, you know that it's a losing battle. And I think that's what I liked about it. Like I'm a kind of a book masochist. I will root for the couple that I know it's not gonna work out with. That's the couple that I like the most. Can someone psychoanalyze me and tell me why that is? It's not like I hate everyone in the world but you, because I kind of don't like when men are like that. But I think it's kind of like I'm closed off to everyone in the world, or like I am like stoic to everyone in the world but you. Like that I love. Being in love with someone secretly, knowing that you can't have them, and so you like don't say anything. I don't know, that really gets me. All you can do is stand by and watch it happen. That, I eat that up every single time. This book did it so well. Last book, arguably the #1 book. I know I said I'm not doing numbers, but if I was putting numbers, this would in fact be the #1 book. This is probably the only book that I was truly anticipating this year. Like I think you guys all know where this is going because you guys know me. The Sunshine Court by Nora Sakovic. If I could give a book 6 stars, this is a 6-star book. Kind of a spin-off, but series continuation of the All for the Games books. The girls who get it, get it. And you know that books are gonna hit when the cover looks like it was made on Microsoft Word in like 2008 in like the best way possible, like non-derogatory. Like look at these. It's screaming self-published and the author is on Tumblr. I've read, reread, annotated, loaned these books out. I love them. Quite literally, look at that. Highlighted everything. Never have I been so hyper-fixated on a book series the way that I was with this. Like for the first time in a long time, like not since I was a teenager. The best and worst books you'll ever read. Truly, like when I tell you that this better reach the right demographic, like this is what I mean. The main characters in the Sunshine Court are introduced in this book, but they're definitely not the main characters. They're like really side characters. Definitely not the characters that I thought were gonna get their own book series, but I'm actually really glad that they did because I can't wait to read the rest of them. It's the best slow burn you'll ever read. Like I can't even explain what this book series is about without it being like the most out-of-pocket thing you'll ever hear in your life. But it's like sports, but then make it also there's mafia in it. Those two things do not go together, and you're right, they don't. Except for in this book series. I don't even like mafia books like that. This is the only exception. Trauma, and this one is probably the most traumatic one. I'm not even gonna lie to you. But the Sunshine Court basically takes place after these books do. One of the enemies kind of like has almost a redemption arc, and then he is now the main character. And you follow him with a whole new team. Like they're not even at the same university as this book, and it's like a whole new found family. Obviously a new romance. The main character of the Sunshine Court, he is like so really closed off. Almost needs like rehabilitation back into the real world, and he like kind of doesn't trust when people are like nice to him because he had like the worst experience ever with the opposite enemy team. Like they're actually a psychotic team. If you read this book, then you'll know who I'm talking about. It was like actually a cult, and he was like so brainwashed and so indoctrinated because of the way that that team was, that when he goes to this new team and like the captain of the team is like the nicest, cutest golden retriever, our main character, like he can't even comprehend that. And I love both of the characters so much. Like I just want him to be okay so bad, the main character. I need the other book. The fact that like not everyone is gonna experience this and have the same attachment to this book series is so insane to me, and I can't believe that I almost didn't read this book series. And I'm so glad that I exist in the same time that books like this exist, and books like every single one of the books that I talked about in this video exists. That was the last book that I have to talk about in this video. I've been talking forever. I don't even know how long this video is gonna be. I've been yapping. Hopefully not that long. I'm gonna make myself cut it down. Those were the top 10 books that I read of 2024. All in all, I think it was an okay year. However, I am hoping that this next year is gonna be even better. Really good addicting books. Like that's I feel like what I was lacking this year. If you guys know books like that, please tell me. Thank you guys so much for a great year. I'm so grateful to have a whole community like this. Literally my heart and soul is this channel. You guys had the best year ever until next year, because next year is gonna be the best year ever. Tell me your guys' favorite books. I would love to know. And you can follow me on my socials. They're all linked in the description. And I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye!